Rosie's Funfair Special. Rosie is a lively little tank engine. She is very quick. She also likes to be very busy. Any job is a good job for Rosie. One day, Rosie and Emily were at Knapford Station. The fat controller had some important news. The Funfair train is waiting at Brendam Docks. Rosie was excited. She hoped the fat controller would ask her to pull the Funfair train. Emily, you must pull the Funfair Special. Rosie was disappointed. Rosie, you must be Emily's back engine. Rosie didn't want to be the back engine. She wanted to pull the Funfair Special on her own. I have a lot to do today. After we pull the Funfair Special, I have to collect milk from High Farm. Rosie puffed sadly along. She wished she could pull the special on her own. Then Rosie had an idea. If she arrived at the docks before Emily, she could take the Funfair Special. Then Emily could puff straight to Hill Farm. That would really help Emily. So Rosie raced off as fast as her pistons would pump. Rosie puffed alongside the Funfair Special. This is a very long train. Rosie couldn't see that Emily was already coupled up and waiting for Rosie. Rosie quickly coupled up to the Funfair Special. Emily will be pleased, she thought. Still, Rosie didn't know that Emily was on the other end of the train. Then there was trouble. Rosie huffed and puffed. She heaved and hauled. The couplings groaned and strained until one of them snapped. Hooray! I'm pulling the Funfair Special! But Rosie had left half of it behind with Emily. Rosie puffed proudly along. The children were very excited to see Rosie pulling the Funfair Special. That made Rosie happy. Then there was trouble. Another coupling snapped. Up ahead, Bertie was carrying children to the funfair. Rosie chuffed by. Bertie started to toot his horn. He's tooting at my Funfair Special, thought Rosie. But Bertie was tooting because the coconut truck was rolling toward the level crossing. It smashed against the gate. Coconuts rolled everywhere. The level crossing was blocked, but Rosie didn't know. She puffed happily on. Then another coupling snapped. Rosie passed Stepney in a siding. Stepney was waiting to puff onto the main line. The points changed. Stepney blew his whistle loudly. He's whistling at my Funfair Special, thought Rosie proudly. But Stepney was whistling because the truck of sugar was now rolling towards him. Stepney was covered in pink sugar from funnel to footplate. But Rosie didn't know. She puffed proudly on. Rosie steamed up Gordon's Hill. Another coupling snapped. She heard an engine's whistle. They're whistling at my Funfair Special too, Rosie thought happily. But it was Emily with the rest of the Funfair trucks. Rosie's flatbed was now rolling back towards Emily. It bashed into Emily. Seats from the big wheel clattered and clanged all over the tracks. Emily was stuck. Rosie chuffed cheerfully into Maithwaite Station. Nobody waved or whistled. The fat controller was cross. I told you to be Emily's back engine. But I brought the Funfair Special all on my own, sir. I wanted to help Emily. You haven't helped anyone. You have caused confusion and delay. You've left half the train. Now there will be no funfair for the children. Rosie felt terrible. She had wanted everyone to be proud of her, and now they were cross. Please, sir, I know just what to do. I'm a very quick engine. I can collect all the trucks. Then I'll be Emily's back engine, and we will deliver the FUNFAIR special in time." So Rosie whooshed off as fast as her wheels would wear. First, Rosie collected Rocky. Then she pulled them as quickly as she could to Emily. Emily's tracks were still blocked. "I'm so sorry, Emily. I only wanted to help you. Rocky will clear the line. I will collect the other trucks. Then we can deliver the FUNFAIR special together." "Thank you, Rosie." Rosie left Rocky and she raced away to collect the first truck. She picked up the coconut truck. Then Rosie collected a new truck of sugar and she raced back to Emily. Rosie had been very quick. Rocky had just loaded the seats back onto the flatbed. "I'm ready to be your back engine now." And together they set off up Gordon's Hill. Rosie and Emily arrived at Maithwaite. All the children waved at the two engines. "We have delivered the FUNFAIR special in time." That evening, Rosie and Emily watched the children at the FUNFAIR. The children were having a wonderful time. "I hope we can work together on another special. The sooner the better. Working with you is best of all." Rosie couldn't have felt happier. Steady Eddie. Edward is one of the oldest engines on the Island of Sodor. Edward may not always be the fastest engine, but he certainly is the steadiest. And for the Fat Controller, a steady engine is a really useful engine. One morning, Edward puffed into the docks. "Good morning." Then the Fat Controller arrived. "The brand new brass water wheel has just arrived from the mainland. It is magnificent. It'll be displayed by the waterworks at Great Waterton." Emily, Gordon and Edward were very excited. They couldn't wait to see the magnificent water wheel. "Edward, you will deliver the water wheel to Great Waterton." Edward beamed from buffer to boiler. Gordon and Emily were surprised. "I've chosen you, Edward, because you are the steadiest engine. You are to take the express line. It is the smoothest and most direct way to Great Waterton." Gordon gasped. Edward was to use his express line. Cranky lowered the water wheel onto Edward's flatbed. It had a shiny brass rim that shone in the sun. Everyone looked at the magnificent water wheel. Edward the Steady is at the ready. And very slowly, Edward pushed his special out of the docks. Edward puffed up to the junction for the express line. Thomas was waiting. "Bust my buffers, Edward. That's a very special. Edward was very happy. He looked ahead. If he took the express line, he couldn't stop for people to admire his magnificent water wheel. But if he took the other track, he could stop at stations and bridges and sidings. A lot of people would see his special. The signal changed. Edward didn't take the express line. Edward was having a wonderful time. He went past stations, under bridges, and past farms. Everyone cheered and waved. Edward the Steady was now Edward the Magnificent. Edward arrived at the junction. The track ahead is in need of repair. But the track ahead led to the school. Edward wanted the school children to see him, so he chuffed on towards the broken track. The track was very bumpy and jumpy. The shiny brass edge of the wheel started to cut into the ropes, but Edward didn't know. At the school, children cheered and waved. Edward wasn't looking at the red signal. Flatten my fender! Edward applied his brakes, but too late. The shiny brass edge of the water wheel cut even deeper through the ropes. Edward knew now that his long journey had made him late. Then he had an idea. I will chuff up Gordon's Hill, Edward thought. It's the fastest way to Great Waterton. And, he huffed to himself, the other engines on the hill will all see my special. Edward chuffed and huffed up Gordon's Hill. Oliver and Arthur passed him coming down. They both thought his special was magnificent. But the water wheel was very heavy. Edward huffed and puffed up the hill. At last, he reached the top. But the edges of the water wheel were cutting deeper and deeper into the ropes. Then there was trouble. With a final jolt, the ropes broke. The magnificent water wheel rolled off Edward's flatbed. For fizzling fireboxes! Gordon was further down the hill with flatbeds of scrap iron. The water wheel rolled down the hill. It bounced onto Gordon's flatbed. Now Edward's magnificent water wheel was on its way to the smelters. Edward had to get to the smelter's yard before Gordon. Edward puffed and Edward panted along every shortcut he knew. No one saw Edward pass, and no one stopped to wave. That no longer mattered to Edward. He had to save his magnificent water wheel from the smelters. Gordon puffed slowly into the smelter's yard. He pulled up outside the smelting shed. Then suddenly, there was Edward. Gordon was surprised. Edward the Steady had won his race against the fastest engine on Sodor. The magnificent water wheel was once again tied down to Edward's flatbed. Edward the Steady, once more at the ready. And his wheels clickety-clacked without a crunch or a crack, or a cheer or a clap along the way. The water wheel was put into place. It looks grand. It looks magnificent. And Edward didn't need anyone else to tell him that his had been a very special. And the billboard. Knapford is the biggest station on the island of Sodor. All the engines love its bustling busyness. Today was a very special day. It was Knapford Station's birthday, and there was going to be a grand party. All the engines were very excited. They were to have their photograph taken. The photograph was going to be put up on a billboard. Thomas felt very proud. I've never been on a billboard before. But the photographer was having trouble fitting all the engines into the photograph. Move back a bit there, James. And you forward, Percy. Yes, that's good. Now, Diesel, can you move in? Diesel moved in. The camera flashed. Thomas didn't know that Diesel had rolled right in front of him. And neither did Diesel. Later that day, Thomas puffed into Marron Station to pick up the new billboard. He was very excited. But when Thomas saw it, he was very disappointed. "Diesel's right in front of me," Thomas thought sadly. "No one can see me at all." Thomas puffed towards Knapford. "Diesel moved in front of me on purpose," puffed Thomas to himself. Thomas felt cross. He wasn't looking where he was going. Then there was trouble. There was a cow on the line. Thomas turned quickly into a siding just in time. He hit the buffers and the billboard flew into the lake. Thomas went to tell the photographer what had happened. "Don't worry, I'll take another photograph. Tell all the engines to meet me at Tidmouth Sheds." Thomas was about to set off. Then he saw Diesel. Thomas knew he should tell Diesel about the new photograph, but Thomas was worried. What if Diesel spoils this one too, thought Thomas. So Thomas didn't tell Diesel. Soon all the engines except Diesel were back at Tidmouth. Gordon was cross. "Mr. Giggles, the famous clown, is coming to the party tonight. I must collect him from the airport. I must not be late. And I have to pick up the brass band from Brendam Docks. And I have to collect the bunting and decorations from Wellsworth. OK, I'll fetch the photographer right away." Thomas was steaming to Marron. Then he saw Diesel. Diesel was puffing straight to Tidmouth. Thomas was worried. Now Diesel would find out about the new photograph. So Thomas turned onto a branch line and he raced back to Tidmouth. "There's been a mistake. You'll all have to come back later." The engines were very cross. Soon they had all gone, and Diesel trundled straight by. Later, Thomas had gathered the engines again. Then Thomas went to Marron to collect the photographer. Just as the photographer was climbing on board, Thomas saw Diesel. Now Diesel would see the photographer and he would find out about the new photograph. So Thomas wheeshed lots of steam. It billowed from his boiler and filled the whole station. So Diesel didn't see the photographer and he trundled straight by. "The steam has made my camera wet." "I'm sorry, sir. We'll have to wait for it to dry. Tell the engines to come back later to Tidmouth." So all the engines came back later, instead of doing their jobs. At last the photographer was ready. No one had noticed Diesel wasn't there. Thomas was very relieved. But just then, Diesel oiled round the bend. Diesel was surprised to see all the engines. He screeched to a halt. Rolls of bunting went everywhere. "No one told me there was another photograph. But I asked Thomas to tell everyone." All the engines looked at Thomas. Thomas felt terrible. The fat controller was very cross. "Gordon, you were meant to pick up Mr. Giggles, the famous clown. Emily, you were meant to pick up the brass band. And James, you were meant to pick up the bunting and decorations. None of you arrived, so Diesel had to do all your jobs. And now he is late to do his own work." Thomas was very upset. "It's all my fault, sir. I didn't want Diesel to know about the new photograph. In the last one, he moved right in front of me, on purpose." "I did not. The photographer told me to move." "I did. Perhaps you rolled too far." Thomas knew then he'd made a mistake. "I'm sorry, Diesel. I was wrong to think you did it on purpose. And I'm very sorry for causing all this trouble, sir." Soon all the engines were lined up. The new photograph was taken. Sir, if I do all Diesel's jobs, can he collect the new billboard? That's a wonderful idea, Thomas. Diesel agreed. For the rest of the day, Thomas worked hard. He did all Diesel's jobs. And Diesel picked up the new billboard just in time for the celebrations. It was a wonderful party. There were clowns and a brass band. Diesel and Thomas agreed that the new billboard was the best billboard they'd ever seen.